We're briefly interrupting this press conference with Nigel Farage to report that the PA news agency is now reporting that Peter Mandelson will resign as a peer of the realm. Peter Mandelson will cease to be Lord Mandelson.
Wow. So that is the breaking news. Of course, we were also hearing from Nigel Farage there earlier. He got lots of questions about Peter Mandelson and what he would do, but Nigel did say that he needs to find out what exactly all the information about Epstein before he can actually say anything. But that breaking news that Peter Mandelson will step down and move from being a peer. What do you think?
And this, of course, follows the government's announcement that it will put forward what was being termed as a Mandelson Act in the House of Commons, in order to strip Peter Mandelson of his peerage. Now, that had cross-party support. It would have certainly passed. Is this just Peter Mandelson jumping before he was pushed? Quite probably. Yeah, well, very, very wise of him to do that. Of course, in the press conference, of course, we did hear Nigel Farage talking about what reform we're doing. He said that the hospitality sector were falling off a cliff. There were cultural changes, but pubs closing are a social disaster. Now, Reform UK had their plans to put forward. He said that he would bring VAT down to 10%. That would mean 44 pence off a pint of beer. They would phase out business rates. And then he said the real problem was energy bills. Absolutely. But on Peter Mandelson, this, of course, marks the end, the absolute end of a long and varied political career. Peter Mandelson in the 1980s was an advisor to the reorganisation of the Labour Party under Neil Kinnock. He changed the Labour Party logo from a red flag to a red rose. He then became the Member of Parliament for Hartlepool. He was known as one of the three men behind the New Labour project: Tony Blair, Gordon Brown and Peter Mandelson. He had to resign not once but twice from Cabinet over a series of scandals under a series of positions. He was EU Commissioner for Trade in the mid-2000s and then sensationally was brought back to government by a man who likely considers himself to be an enemy of Peter Mandelson, Gordon Brown. As Prime Minister, Peter Mandelson became Business Secretary. Just when it looked like his career was over, fully over and done, he, of course, was resurrected by Keir Starmer, who appointed him as Washington ambassador, the American ambassador in Washington, D.C. That, of course, ended in scandal. And this particular Epstein scandal has put a full stop to a long and varied political career. The political Lazarus, the Lord of Darkness, as some people referred to him, clearly now resigning his role as a member of the House of Lords, ending this political career that spanned 4 decades.
Your personal data could be exposed right now without you even knowing it. And if you want it removed, use incogni.com/GB News in the description now and get 60% off an annual plan on us. Incogni reach out to the data brokers on your behalf and request that your information be deleted from their databases. And they'll keep sending removal requests to make sure your data stays gone. Sometimes your information ends up on strange, obscure websites that automated tools just can't reach. And that's why Incogni just launched their unlimited plan with a feature called Custom Removals. With this, you can submit any link where your personal information appears, literally paste in the URL, and their privacy team will investigate and work to get it removed. And getting started is super easy. Hit the link in the description, create an Incogni account, and tell them whose data you want removed. Grant them permission to work on your behalf, and then all you've got to do is sit back and relax. They'll keep you updated along the way. Incogni is totally risk-free for 30 days. If you try it, it's not for you, you'll get a full refund. So take back control of your personal data today with Incogni. Use our code GBNews at checkout via the link in the description, and you'll get 60% off an annual plan.
Well, a lot of people say that he was very intelligent and that he was, Nigel Farage said he was one of the best networkers ever and that he had a huge address book of some great names. And But I would say that I don't think he's that clever at all, of course, to be embroiled with all of the stuff with Jeffrey Epstein, even remain in contact with Epstein after Epstein had been put in prison for paedophilia, which most would probably not remain friends with him, but somehow it would appear in emails that he did continue with the communication, and of course this is the result of all of that. Somehow Keir Starmer has managed to distance himself from all of this. Of course, he had nothing to do with Epstein, but the fact is he did appoint him as ambassador to the US, which a lot of people question why he would have done that.
And it was a competitive process. The battle was fought across the papers, across the television studios of this country. We were widely led to believe that it came down to either David Miliband or Peter Mandelson, who would be Keir Starmer's ambassador in Washington, D.C. Keir Starmer came down on the decision to appoint Peter Mandelson, despite the widely reported association with Jeffrey Epstein, despite the fact we knew that the US House of Representatives was investigating Jeffrey Epstein and indeed had control of his personal effects, his emails. The government would surely know that those emails could have been leaked. The government was warned by Gordon Brown, the former Prime Minister, of a potential leak of market-sensitive information to Jeffrey Epstein by Peter Mandelson when he was business secretary. And yet, despite the warnings, despite the warnings in public and in private, despite the warnings from the previous Labour Prime Minister, despite warnings in the press, by journalists, by campaigners, Keir Starmer ignored all of those warnings and appointed Peter Mandelson as a man who could get things done in Washington.
Well, Nigel Farage said that he offered to work with Peter Mandelson as well, despite all the suspicions that he had. And an interesting question from Tim Stanley, who said, well, how do you account for Peter Mandelson constantly returning what was his appeal? And Nigel said he was very articulate, intelligent, well-briefed, probably the best networker. A bewitching appeal. But he said we can't trust repeat offenders, which Peter Mandelson did to keep resurfacing constantly, and he did have this constant connection with Epstein that most would have detached, knowing what he knew.
We know that his partner took a significant loan from Jeffrey Epstein. But this is a pattern of behaviour that stretches back through time for Peter Mandelson as someone who has forever been close to wealthy individuals. The first time he had to resign as a cabinet minister was over a visa issue where a powerful and influential individual was given an expedited visa, if I remember correctly. And of course, it's the same sort of scandal time and time again. Too close to individuals with wealth and power. This has always been the attraction of Peter Mandelson as one of the best networked people in Westminster, as someone who knows absolutely everyone, but like a firefly being attracted to a light, has always perhaps lacked that judgment, lacked that ability to stay away from the orbit of these wealthy and powerful individuals when perhaps often those same individuals are not the people to associate with.
Well, so of course the breaking news that Peter Mandelson has stepped down, handing back his peerage. So there doesn't look like there needs to be a Mandelson Act at all.
Well, this is clearly going to be the significant news going through the day, but we should say that there may have been some discussion around the Gorton and Denton by-election during that press conference with Nigel Farage. It's, of course, taking place on Thursday, the 26th of February. Well, the by-election was triggered after the resignation of Andrew Gwynn.
The Conservatives have announced Charlotte Cadden as their candidate. Hannah Spencer is the Green Party's candidate. Jackie Pearcey has been announced as the Liberal Democrats' candidate. And Matt Goodwin was announced as Reform UK's candidate.
Angeliki Stogia has been announced as the Labour Party's candidate. Meanwhile, Advance UK announced Nick Buckley as their candidate. Sebastian Moore is the Social Democratic Party candidate. The Rejoin EU Party announced Joseph Omichair as their candidate. There's also Dan Clark from the Libertarian Party and Sir Oinkalot from the Monster Raving Loony Party.
Wow. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain, but that's the end from us. Stay with us, don't go anywhere, because Martin Daubney is up next.
Thank you very, very much indeed, Tom and Nana. What a hugely dramatic day in politics. Once again, you join us at the top of the hour, 3 p.m. here with that dramatic news. It's the end, surely now, for Lord Mandelson. It's 3 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Dorby Show here on GB News. We're broadcasting live across the UK, all the very latest news, debate and analysis. And let's start on that breaking news story today. Lord Mandelson is to step down from the House of Lords. It has been announced by the Lord Speaker. Let's get full reaction in the studio with my star-studded panel today. I'm delighted to be joined by the A-Team. GB News presenter Chris Hope and the member of the House of Lords and former Labour MP Baroness Kate Hoey, and of course our Homeland Security editor Mark White. Welcome one, welcome all. Let's start with you, Chris. Yesterday, clearly, the writing was on the wall. Dame Emily Thornberry saying it's not a matter of when he gets stripped of his peerage. This, surely now, is a matter for the police. Inexorably, things have moved on. What's the latest?
Well, a lot has happened. In the past moments, we heard a statement from Lord Mandelson. He says this, that given the public interest and for the convenience of the House of Lords, I've decided to inform the House that the Clerk of the Parliament has today received notification from Lord Mandelson of his intention to retire from the House, effectively from February the 4th. I think this is a statement actually from the Lord Speaker rather than Mandelson himself. I will formally notify this to the House tomorrow in the usual way. What's happened here is that, like all peers, and Kate Hoey will know this, when you get to a certain point in your life and you feel you're old or you feel you can't, you feel it's time to go, you retire, you're still called Lord Mandelson. He hasn't lost that. And I think he's trying to do this clearly to head off the Mandelson Act, which is being drafted right now by Sir Keir Starmer's officials to strip him of his title and his right to be in the House of Lords. He's removed his own right to be in the House of Lords, but he's still got the title, so I think the issues still remain. But a lot has happened. Well, I was with the PM on Friday night flying from Beijing to Shanghai. We asked him then about the Epstein files and Lord Mandelson. He said, I will not comment on Lord Mandelson. A lot has changed in the past 5 days.
It's worth mentioning, Mark White, that some of the privy information that was passed on is astonishing. Passing on the notion that multi-billion pound loans are about to be given to the European Union to save the Eurozone. This information passed to Jeffrey Epstein and who knows who else of his multi-billionaire friends. That's very, very privileged information. If you worked in a bank and you passed that on, you'd be in prison. So it begs the question, is that the next step for Lord Mandelson?
Yeah, there's no doubt there's real concern about the potential, of course, for people to make very significant amounts of money out of the bond markets, for instance. So that is something that, of course, the police will be looking at. We know because Christopher was at the lobby, an extended lobby for quite some time, a little earlier, that the Cabinet Office is now cooperating fully with the Metropolitan Police and passing on whatever information they think is relevant to Scotland Yard. I'd be really interested to know what they might have found, Chris.
Well, what they passed on is, Mark, an assessment of emails. So what we don't know is these are policy emails. They some of them, they admit now, allowed the leaking of market-sensitive information related to the 2008 crash going to a banker who worked for JP Morgan, who knew other bankers too. That is where the problem is here. It's moved quite a lot. And also, I think this is the government trying to get a grip on a problem or a scandal they haven't got hold of yet. And even today, Sir Keir Starmer telling his own cabinet that the full totality of information is not yet out there. They are rushing to catch up.
I think that is a key point, isn't it? We know about some very serious, small number of very high-profile revelations now, but actually, you know, this is a man who had a relationship with Epstein over many, many years. He, at various points, was in and out of government in very, very, key positions in terms of the sort of the information that he was privy to.
The one thing I would say is the totality of the story is Mandelson and Epstein. It's not Mandelson in the current government. Now, I say that because, given what we know now about Mandelson, and he would deny all this, and there's no suggestion anything happened when he was ambassador to Washington, why is the government not looking at that too? Because clearly what's happened in the past, he was leaking information to other people. Of course, he would deny all wrongdoing.